Hi folks, welcome to today's color process video. And this is obviously the final process video for the final comic for 2019. And it's a fairly simple comic, but it's one I'm quite fond of. I'm very pleased with how it turned out overall. When it came to coloring this, um, I knew going in it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be overly complicated in terms of my color choices. However, one major change I did have to make in the end was I wanted the background in the room that the character is in behind the window. I wanted that to be somewhat vibrant. I was thinking at first when I was drawing the comic that I'd have lots of hatching going on and for it to be kind of dark, but I really wanted that to pop. So that kind of red, pink, orange color you see in the sky in the last panel, that was going to be um, the color behind the character in those panels, in the other panels, that is. However, as I neared the end of doing the comic, one thing I very quickly realized was having the sky and the room be the same color led to a problem where in those initial panels before the reveal in the last panel, rather than it looking like someone looking from inside a building out, it looked more like someone looking from outside a building in. Like that looked less like a room behind the character and more like uh, a bright sky. And while I was reluctant to get rid of that color because I really liked how it popped against the gray of the building, in the end I had to. Um, Otherwise, it would have led to potential confusion as to the geography of what's going on in those panels. Now, I could have left it as it was because the last panel in the end um, it makes it clear what way we're looking at things. However, I didn't want there to be any doubt in the reader's head, um, even with the context of the last panel. So I just decided I had to make that change. Um, Another thing I did, and it didn't take me near as much time as I thought it would, was the in the last panel the way the building is fading into the clouds to give this kind of almost like fog kind of effect. Um, I originally intended on doing that using like I have a textured brush I use a lot in Photoshop, which gives nice kind of gradient effects. So I was thinking of basically having the say the building on one layer, like the building's colors, and then the clouds on a layer beneath that. And what I would do would be to gradually like start off heavy with the building at the top and then gradually work my way down to transparency. And this would lead to obviously the clouds showing through the transparent bits and allowing for that kind of a feel of a building shrouded in mist or fog. However, because I decided with the rest of the comic that I would render it mostly in flats, I felt it would, in this case, it would look kind of strange if suddenly there's all this texture going on in this one panel. It would be one thing if I was going for an intentional style shift, but in this case, I wasn't going for that at all. So instead, I went for a far simpler method of getting a similar effect. What I did was I filled in the building from top to bottom, going all the way down to the bit of ground we see in the foreground in that last panel. Then, using the selection tool, I set it to 50 pixel feather. And what that does, if you're not familiar with that, is typically when you make a selection in Photoshop or any kind of paint program, um, by default, it it's set at an edge of zero feathering, like zero pixels feathered, and that just gives you a nice hard edge. However, the more feathering you add to that, so you can go like you can add like a feather of one, or you can add like a feather of 100. So as you go up with the feathering, it softens that selection more and more and more. So obviously, if I set that to 50, that gives you a very soft edge. And it can lead to very quick and simple gradient effects without having to use the gradient tool. Um, like I find if you add feathering to a selection, it's still got that kind of telltale kind of digital look to it, but it doesn't seem to be quite as harsh as just going for the standard gradient. So what I did was I took that 50 pixel feathered selection using the rectangle selection tool. I selected the bottom half of the building in that last panel, and then it was just simply a matter of hitting backspace to delete that selection. And what you see is the result. You get this nice, gradual, soft kind of edge to things, and it gives the impression of the building fading into the clouds or mist or what have you. And yeah, like that's the beauty of coloring digitally. Just little tricks like that, which can help you achieve nice looking effects, without having to put in a ton of work. Like it's nice to be able to use little shortcuts like that to get an effect across in a fairly effective way. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. And before I go, I just want to wish you all a very happy new year, and I hope everything in 2020 turns out as you hope or wish for. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for your support, and I'll see you in 2020. Take care.